I think as Southerners, we all are familiar with Mardi Gras. If not the specifics, we know the basics. You know, New Orleans, Fat Tuesday, a lot happening around February. But did you know it originated in Alabama and was a New Year-centered celebration? Let's talk about it. Way back in 1702, before Alabama was a state, the first capital of French Louisiana was Mobile. At the time, it was a strategic location for the French and their territory on the bay with access to the rivers and to the Gulf of Mexico. It was the French who introduced Mardi Gras to Mobile. The credit goes to the first French settlers to the area. Now, I'm going to butcher these names, but I'm going to try my best. Pierre Lemaine d'Iberville and Jean-Baptiste Lemaine d'Iberville. It's recorded that the first celebration included feasting and plenty of drinks. This first celebration was recorded as occurring in 1703 and taking place in the area of 27 Mile Bluff, which was the first settlement of Mobile. This event became an annual tradition. As the next century played out, Mobile found itself ruled by the French, and then by the British, and then the Spanish held Mobile. Finally, in 1810, Mobile became part of the United States' Alabama Territory, and then in 1819, Alabama gained its statehood, which meant Mobile had become an American city. After several years into the Alabama statehood, Mobile would make its official claim on Mardi Gras, or as it's also known as, Carnival, when a fellow by the name of Michael Krafft partied a little too much on New Year's Eve. On New Year's Eve, 1830, Mr. Krafft spent the evening with his buddies Thomas Niles, Robert Roberts, Henry Dagger, Daniel Geary, Nathaniel Ledyard, Richard Curie, and Emmanuel Kipp at the Antoine Laurette's restaurant in the Southern Hotel in Mobile. By all accounts, they spent the evening enjoying food and much drink. As daylight peeked over the horizon, the gang departed the hotel and wandered through the streets of Mobile when they passed Partridge's hardware store, where the group observed the clerk stocking the displays with rakes and other implements. Mr. Krafft and his buddies couldn't pass the store up and purchased a slew of items such as cowbells, rakes, gongs, and anything else they could find in the store to make noise with. After making their purchases, they stumbled back onto the cobblestone streets of Mobile and paraded through the streets, making as much noise as possible. The group finally ended up at the future mayor's house, Jonathan Stocking, and that's where their parade ended. The first year, Mr. Krafft's group called themselves the Midnight Revelers. As this tradition continued, the group would be renamed to the Cowbellion de Rakin Society, which was a parody of French society names. This specific group survived for 50 years before others started taking its place. This was the start to the mystic societies in the U.S. that put on Mardi Gras now. On a side note, those mystic societies would come to be better known as krewes, spelled K-R-E-W-E-S, when Mardi Gras would take root in New Orleans and flourish there. Mr. Krafft would eventually move to New Orleans, taking the event with him, and other mystic societies started, and after rooting in New Orleans, they flourished. After his move to New Orleans, Mardi Gras in Mobile persisted, but not as strongly as in New Orleans. Now you may say, how did it become less associated with New Year's and more centered around Fat Tuesday? Well, I'm glad you asked. When Mr. Krafft moved to New Orleans and Mardi Gras started taking root in New Orleans, it evolved a little bit. New Orleans had a stronger French presence than Mobile at the time, and with that presence was a stronger presence of Catholicism. Fat Tuesday is more of a Catholic tradition based on the Easter season, and so Mardi Gras started evolving into a schedule and tradition based on Fat Tuesday before Easter. So that, my friends, is the history of the beginnings of Mardi Gras and how Alabama holds the claim to the nation's first Mardi Gras celebration. Mardi Gras is still celebrated in Mobile, however, it varies somewhat from how it is celebrated in New Orleans. From my research, it seems as though the Mardi Gras celebrations in Mobile are more family-centered and family-friendly. Whereas from what I have seen of the celebrations in New Orleans, families with children shouldn't be within a 100-mile radius. So there you have it, the history of Mardi Gras in Alabama.